Welcome back to Cyberflicker channel. Today, we're diving into the 2016 sci-fi romance Passengers. Spoiler warning ahead. Let's begin. Far from Earth, drifting through the infinite silence of space, a colossal interstellar ship called the Avalon cruises toward a distant colony world known as Homestead 2. The journey will take 120 years. On board are 5,000 passengers and 258 crew members, all placed in hibernation pods. They are pioneers, people who left Earth behind in search of a better life. Overpopulation, economic collapse, environmental decay. Earth has become crowded and unforgiving. Homestead 2 represents hope. The ship runs entirely on autopilot. It is essentially a floating city, programmed to wake everyone 4 months before arrival. Everything is functioning perfectly, until the Avalon enters a dense asteroid field. The ship's shields absorb multiple impacts, rerouting power to compensate. But then a massive asteroid punches through the defenses and collides with the hull. The ship shakes violently. Systems flicker. Alarms silently register malfunctions. The Avalon initiates automated repair protocols. Most of the damage is corrected. One error remains. Deep inside the ship, a single hibernation pod begins to malfunction. And it opens. Preston awakens. Disoriented and confused, Jim steps out of his pod. A cheerful automated voice congratulates him on completing his hibernation. It informs him that he has slept for 120 years and that the ship is only 4 months from reaching Homestead 2. But something feels wrong. The room is empty. The corridors are silent. He walks into a classroom designed for group orientation, but only holograms respond. He asks questions. The program continues its script, unable to acknowledge that he's alone. Jim searches the ship. He requests to speak to a crew member. None are awake. He asks for the captain. No response. He tries to access the bridge. Denied. Finally, in the ship's observatory, he sees the truth displayed across the navigation systems. The Avalon is still 90 years from its destination. He didn't wake up months early. He woke up decades early. Panic sets in. Jim sends a message to Earth asking for help. The system informs him that a reply will take 55 years. Even if someone responds immediately, he'll be middle-aged by the time he hears back. He tries everything. He dismantles his own hibernation pod. He studies schematics. He attempts to access crew pods. Nothing works. The systems are locked behind high-level clearance he doesn't have. And there is no way back to sleep. Jim realizes the horrifying truth. He will live and die alone on this ship. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. His only companion becomes Arthur, the ship's android bartender. Arthur looks human, speaks politely, mixes perfect drinks. But he is still a machine. Jim talks to him constantly, drinks heavily, tries to maintain some sense of routine. A year passes. The isolation begins to erode him. He wanders empty luxury suites meant for gold-class passengers. Eats in 5-star restaurants alone. Plays video games against himself. The ship is magnificent and completely meaningless without another human being. Eventually, Jim breaks. He puts on a spacesuit, walks into the airlock, steps out into the void. Space is breathtaking, endless stars stretching in every direction. He releases the magnetic boots from the hull and floats freely. For a moment, he considers letting go, ending the loneliness. But survival instinct wins. He returns inside, shaken but alive. And then, while wandering through rows of sleeping passengers, he sees her, Aurora Lane. Her face is calm inside the hibernation pod. Curious, Jim searches her file. She's a journalist and writer. Smart, ambitious, charismatic. He watches her pre-flight interview. She explains her plan. Travel to Homestead 2, live there for 1 year, then return to Earth. She has a rare round-trip ticket. She wants to document the journey, become the first journalist to report from another world. Jim becomes captivated. He watches her interviews repeatedly, reads her published work, listens to her voice echo in empty corridors. And then a thought begins to grow. If he wakes her, he won't be alone. But waking her would mean condemning her to the same fate. She would never reach Homestead 2, never return to Earth, never fulfill her dream. He debates the decision for weeks. He almost walks away. But loneliness is powerful. And eventually, he makes a choice he can't undo. Jim overrides her pod. Aurora awakens. Confused, disoriented. Jim pretends her pod malfunctioned just like his. She reacts with shock and fear when she discovers they're 90 years from arrival. Unlike Jim, she refuses to give up. She researches the infirmary, tries accessing crew chambers, studies ship systems obsessively. She believes there must be a solution. Time passes, and slowly, the two begin to bond. Jim shows her parts of the ship she hasn't seen. The grand dining halls, the holographic cinema, the swimming pool beneath artificial stars. They laugh together, dance together, share personal stories. Aurora opens up about her father's death when she was young. Jim admits he left Earth because he felt ordinary, invisible, and wanted to build something meaningful on a new world. Their loneliness becomes shared, and love begins to form. For the first time since waking up, Jim feels alive again. He even crafts an engagement ring by hand. He plans to propose. But secrets don't stay buried. One evening, while Jim prepares the proposal, Aurora sits at the bar with Arthur. Casually, without understanding the consequences, Arthur reveals the truth. Jim woke her on purpose. Her entire world collapses. She confronts him in disbelief. Everything they shared suddenly feels like manipulation. To her, he didn't just wake her. He stole her life, her dream, her future. She cuts him off completely. She avoids him, refuses to speak to him, and Jim is forced to sit alone again, this time with guilt. But before their conflict can resolve, the ship begins to fail. Gravity malfunctions. Systems flicker. Robots break down. Food dispensers glitch. Then another pod opens. Deck Chief Gus Mancuso awakens. But something is wrong. He's suffering from severe hibernation sickness, internal organ failure caused by premature awakening. With his security clearance, they access the bridge and discover catastrophic system damage that has been slowly spreading since the asteroid strike. The reactor is destabilizing. If it fails, everyone on board will die. Mancuso dies shortly after, leaving Jim his access bracelet, granting him full clearance. Now, despite everything between them, Jim and Aurora must work together, because 5,000 lives depend on it. They trace the failure to the ship's reactor core. Hull breaches, power surges, overheating systems. During one malfunction, gravity shuts off while Aurora is swimming. Water engulfs her midair. She nearly drowns in zero gravity. Jim saves her. The reactor continues overheating. There's only one solution: manual venting from outside the ship. Someone must hold the vent door open while the reactor purges. It will expose them to extreme radiation and explosive force. Jim insists on doing it. Aurora begs him not to go. Despite everything, she still loves him. But Jim chooses sacrifice. He steps into space once more, clings to the hull, forces the vent open, and tells Aurora to initiate the purge. The reactor vents successfully. The explosion blasts Jim into space. His tether snaps. His suit loses pressure. Aurora rushes to retrieve him. She risks her own life, flying into the void to grab him. She drags him back inside. But he's not breathing. He's dead. Using Mancuso's bracelet, she overrides medical protocols and places Jim in the autodock. The machine shocks him. Again and again. Finally, his heart starts beating. He survives. Later, Jim discovers something remarkable. The medical pod can function as a hibernation chamber, but only for one person. Aurora could still sleep through the remaining 88 years. She could wake up on Homestead 2. Live her dream. Jim offers her that choice. She considers it and declines. She chooses to stay, to build a life with him. Years pass. They transform the Avalon. Trees grow inside the Grand Concourse. Flowers bloom. The cold metallic corridors become warm and alive. They create meaning in a place never meant for permanence. They grow old together. 88 years later, the Avalon arrives at Homestead 2. The crew awakens to find the ship transformed into a living garden, and a message waiting for them. Aurora's final story. A story about isolation, choice, sacrifice, forgiveness, and love in the vast, silent darkness of space.